Major life events happen to all of us, whether that's the breakdown of a relationship or the loss of a home or a job or of somebody close to you, or maybe just a new phase of your life. These major life events are really challenging psychologically. And if you've got issues with your weight, then what you're going through at the moment is potentially going to have a real impact on what changes you're able to make, or whether you're able to follow a particular pattern of eating or a diet. So in this video, I'm going to help you think about what's actually happening when you're going through a period of major upheaval, a big life event, and look at what is actually happening psychologically during this time, then what that means for eating and weight loss. And then I'm going to help you think about what you can actually do in relation to weight loss as you emerge from a period of major upheaval like this. So first, what happens psychologically when you experience a major life event? Your energy, your attention, and your emotions are all likely to be affected, as I'll explain now. Experiencing a life event is a major upheaval. So before it happens, it's like you're walking along solid ground. It may not have felt particularly solid at the time, but boy, does it feel solid now. And as you're walking along, suddenly something happens where it's as though the earth gives way and you're suddenly chucked into running water, fast running water. Whatever the event is, suddenly the solid ground has gone and it's like suddenly you're afloat or trying to stay afloat. At that point, all of your efforts are focused on staying afloat and keeping going, and it may feel like this goes on for ages. Eventually, what happens is that over time, you see that there is another bank to this fast flowing. It's like the other bank of the river, if you like. And as things change, you notice that there is actually a ladder, a bit like the steps out of a swimming pool, to take you up onto the other bank. Now, whilst you're in the middle here, in the middle of the life event, various things are happening psychologically. Before you're able to get back onto solid ground, what happens is that all your energy, or a vast amount of your energy, is taken on staying afloat. The second thing is that your attention is really narrowed and focused on doing just that, on keeping going and being able to keep your head above water. So your focus of your attention is really narrowed, and your time scale of what you can think about narrows just the same. It really shortens so that your focus is on the next hour or the next day. It's hard to think about much in the future, and in fact, if you do think ahead, you might find yourself just a bit overwhelmed with not knowing how it's going to be. And the third thing that happens is that you can feel really emotionally dysregulated, so that you feel overwhelmed and at sea with how you're feeling. So with time, what happens is that you gradually, step by step, move towards the other bank, and eventually you are able to climb up the ladder and get onto solid ground again. As you start to climb up the ladder, you'll notice various things happening. One is that you'll have a bit more energy to focus on things. You'll find that you're able to think about more things. You're able to expand your focus a bit onto other things that might be important to you. And you'll find that emotionally, you're likely to be feeling a bit less dysregulated, feeling a bit more like yourself again. As you adjust to whatever it is that's happened in this life event, and you're back on solid ground, you'll find that you're able to think a bit more about the future. You'll be able to plan things. You'll have more energy. And this means that you've got the mental bandwidth and the energy to start thinking about what your priorities are now in a way that you may have not been able to when the storm was at its height. So what does this way of thinking about going through a major life event mean for how you're eating and whether you're able to concentrate on weight loss? Well, first of all, if you think of being in that fast-flowing water, you're unlikely to have any energy spare to focus on anything other than getting through what you're actually going through right now, today. Second, because it's taking so much of your attention and because your attentional focus is really narrowed to deal with what may feel like a really threatening situation, when you're in the midst of it, you won't have the mental bandwidth to implement any intentions or plans because you just won't be, your mind just won't have the flexibility and the space to do that at that time. And third, because of the impact on how you're feeling emotionally, it's likely that you're going to be turning to whatever you have found works best to help you regulate difficult emotions in the past. And if you're somebody who tends to turn to food or drink at those times, then that's what you're likely to be doing. So you may find that you're drinking more than normal or you're eating more than normal, and that is maybe because you are managing those emotions, those difficult emotions, as best you can right now. So there, I'm talking all about what's happening in the midst of the turmoil, in the midst of the upheaval. You haven't got the energy, you haven't got the mental bandwidth to make reasoned changes. You just haven't got that sort of availability in terms of your brain space. And third, you may well be managing the intensity of emotions by turning to food or drink. And that's just how it is. And actually, if you can respond to yourself and treat yourself with compassion during this time, that's probably going to be much more helpful to you in the long run than beating yourself up about it. So what can you do in the midst of a life event? And what can you do as you emerge from it? Let's take the first of those first. When you're in that fast-flowing water, maybe just think about treading water as well as you can. So you're not trying to do anything new, you're just trying to keep going with what you already do. What that means is that if you're already, for instance, taking medication to help with weight loss, then keep doing that. And if you're already doing something in relation to eating that has become second nature, then you'll probably keep doing that anyway. Because the things that we do that we've become really established with become habitual, and that means they're not taking any particular mental bandwidth. They're being governed by the subconscious part of our brains. So even though you're going through a really tumultuous time, you may find that habits that you've formed more or less keep going. But the other thing to do when you're in the midst of upheaval is to expect very little of yourself in terms of making any plans or changes. That's going to be difficult, and you'll be able to do those in time, but not when you're in the midst of that fast-flowing water. So now let's think about the time as that turmoil passes and as you are gradually going up the steps on the ladder out of the water onto the other bank of the river. What you'll start to notice probably is maybe having a bit more energy, but you're also likely to notice that now you are maybe a bit more able to make plans and think a little bit further ahead, so that you're more able to think about the future in a sort of constructive way of prioritizing what matters to you right now and being able to make plans. You'll also be likely to find that your time scale has now expanded to being able to think further ahead. So not just about the next hour when you're in survival mode, you're now more able to think about next week or next month or even further ahead than that. And with that, you're likely to notice that you have actually perhaps got a little bit more bandwidth to think about what you want to happen now. It may be that what happens is pretty much getting back to life as it was before, but with some life events, life is rather different afterwards, and that may mean adjusting and getting used to the changes. That's all part of dealing with a major life event. So if you're in the situation of coming out of a period of major life event and you're starting to notice that changing how you eat, weight loss is important to you, then hit the link in the description below to find out ways that I can help you with that if you want to get some additional help thinking about that. If you're in the middle of a major upheaval right now, I'd suggest that maybe just make a note of this video and come back to it once the storm subsides a bit, once things have settled down a bit, because it'll be really difficult to make changes right now. If you found this video helpful, it would be great if you'd like it and share it with anyone else you think will find it useful, and maybe subscribe to my YouTube channel for lots more videos on issues to do with the psychology of eating and weight loss. My next video is about the 4 key eating habits that may have kept you stuck in the past and how to start to overcome them.